The imagery is shocking, and the message is immediately crystal clear. Time magazine's new cover speaks to America's executive branch transformed by Russia. Tonight, there is a special prosecutor on the job in Washington to find out if this is the true picture of the Trump White House. Mr. Trump says he sees nothing but a witch hunt. I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. This is The Day.
I'm concerned that Director Mueller will still be subject to the supervision of the Trump-appointed leadership at the Justice Department.
To bring in someone like Robert Mueller that has already worked within the FBI.
I think that the acting Attorney General thought that this was in the best interest of the investigation.
With the new president has been in crisis from week to week.
To keep the career folks at FBI and to be able to make sure they can continue to do their job.
It's one thing after the other, and I am pleased that that's happened.
But you have an independent person as the final decision maker in the direction.
I see absolutely no reason why I wouldn't agree with him.
We're saying we've got to prevent this from happening in the future. That is one of the reasons we need an outside independent counsel.
Also coming up tonight, Iranians go to the polls tomorrow to elect a president. It's now a two-man race, too close to call. Does that explain the silence of the supreme leader? We'll get an election preview in about 14 minutes. We begin the day with no end for the investigation surrounding U.S. President Donald Trump. Late yesterday, with little warning, the Department of Justice appointed a special counsel, a former FBI boss, to investigate Trump's alleged Russian connections and anything and everything beyond that if needed. Now, Trump vented his anger on Twitter, making unsubstantiated claims that both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama had ties to illegal acts deserving a special investigation as well. Trump tweeted that he is the victim of the single greatest political witch hunt in American history. Well, the special prosecutor, Robert Mueller, is expected to assemble a legal team swiftly. The White House is trying to deflect attention today, focusing on the president's first trip abroad beginning tomorrow. Now, the Middle East and Europe are on his 9-day itinerary.
Many of the leaders, particularly in the part of the world we'll be traveling, are ready for a period of what they view to have been neglect, to outright dismissal of their concerns. They're ready for re-engagement with America.
And we believe that President Trump, with an unconventional approach and with a practical, pragmatic approach, understands that we need a new way of resolving this conflict.
In a few days, we'll be marking the first 4 months of the Trump administration, the 20th of May. Nothing. He has nothing to show for it. We haven't seen any evidence of a jobs proposal. The president loves to talk about the election, but the election was about jobs.
All right, that was Nancy Pelosi there speaking. You know, every day we commit this program to reporting the truth about the events of the day, and we are not alone. I'm happy to have at the big table with me Stephen O. He's the Chief Business Officer of TYT Network, which is better known as the Young Turks. It's a wildly popular and successful news program on YouTube and Hulu, just to name two sources. It's good to have you here on the show, Steve. I mean, when we describe what you do, we use words like progressive, forward-thinking, you dare to ask questions. Are programs like yours in the U.S., just for our international audience, are they a rare commodity?
Yes, we are. We're still rare, but increasingly we're becoming less rare. We see the world not so much in terms of left versus right, but really versus the powerful versus the powerless, insiders versus outsiders. And we take no special allegiance towards the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party. We take issues one at a time, and we analyze them as they are. So we favor Barack Obama when he expanded healthcare coverage to a lot of other people.
Right.
We oppose him when he's doing drone strikes across Pakistan and Yemen and other places.
I want to talk a little bit about what's going on right now in the U.S. and the implications that has for the rest of the world. But first, I want to ask you about Berlin. This is your first trip to Berlin. What brings you here?
So I'm here, it's actually my second time here.
Your second time,
But both
okay.
times I've been here for an event at the YouTube space here in Berlin. They're kind enough to invite me over to speak with various German publishers, news publishers, as well as German political parties about how to use YouTube as part of their election coverage. Because, as you know, we had a wild and crazy election in the United States last year.
Yeah, and have you been bombarded with questions since you arrived here about what's going on in the United States? Have people
I have
asking?
been.
Yeah,
I have
and,
been.
And what do you tell people? I mean, what's your explanation for what we're seeing in Washington at the White House right now?
Well, they think that I have some special information that they don't have. I don't. You guys have all the access to media that I have. From my perspective and the perspective of the Young Turks, what's happening with Donald Trump is in many ways an embarrassment to our country. He never should have been president in the first place because he lacks the mental capacity, the work ethic, the respect for our allies and our history, the process, all of that. He's a man who is self-absorbed, who wants to be president for his fame and fortune, and that's pretty much it.
But why do you still think it? And we're still debating this now. A long time after the election. Why do you think so many people though voted for him and people still stick with him?
Yes, that's a great question, and that's a question that escaped the Democrats, who unfortunately have really kind of lost the people. They voted for him because, again, we look at it from the dynamic of the powerful versus the powerless. And he purported to speak for the powerless. He purported to care about the working class that has been abandoned by both parties in America for the last 20, 30 years. And, it's very instructive when we send our reporters out into the field and they speak to folks who are displaced, folks without jobs, without hope. They live in all parts of America. They're never discussed on cable news. They're just ignored. And Trump goes to these people and pretends that he cares about them and he'll bring back jobs. He won't. He flat out won't. Unfortunately, Trump voters are just like Trump supporters in his prior endeavors, whether it's Trump University, Trump State. They are his first victims.
How culpable are we, the media, in this? I mean, aren't we partly the reason why he was able to rise to power?
Absolutely. Media, for better or for worse, they chase ratings, and he rates. He's always saying things that are outlandish and crazy, so he generates views and clicks, and the media kind of created him, gave him all that free coverage that allowed him to rise to the place that he is.
And how do you explain this, or what's your take on this? If you look at the UK and the US, they ended up with Brexit and Trump. If you look at Europe, the continent, we have Macron, we have Merkel. Why is continental Europe able to not fall into that populist path of thinking? What's the difference?
Well, by all accounts, Hillary should have won, right? She won the popular vote.
So it's the electoral college.
Yes, there are certain things that are unique about the American election process that allowed Trump to have this victory. Hillary Clinton was, I think, a horrible candidate. She really dropped the ball in many respects. She failed to go to Wisconsin. She didn't connect with voters in Michigan during the primary. She should have known that she has to work harder in the general election. Never really did. She took for granted that many people would turn out to vote for her, and they just didn't show up for her. So, but still, she did get more popular votes. So, in almost any other country in the world, she would have been president, but in the U.S., she's not.
What do you think is going to happen when we look at the perception of the United States moving forward with President Trump? He's about to go abroad on his first trip. I want to play for you what the foreign minister of Russia had to say about us, the media. And just take a listen to the joke he was making.
I get a feeling that many US mass media use the same principle as the Soviet Union media did. There used to be a joke in the Soviet Union that there was a newspaper, Pravda, the so-called truth, and there was no Izvestia, no news in it. And there was the newspaper Izvestia, the news, and there was no Pravda, no truth in there. Truly, I get the impression that many US media are working in this vein.
What do you say to that? I mean, that's amazing, right? He's making fun of the US media with something that was very Soviet.
Yeah, well, I disagree. And, you know, I'm the first one to criticize mainstream media. But you have to keep in mind that it's not all good or all bad.
Right.
They make mistakes, and they've dropped the ball on many occasions. But you can't also just delegitimize the entire industry and say the media is completely useless and we should ignore everything they say, because they do disseminate important information. The important thing to do, and that's what we try to do at the Young Turks, is to parcel out the truth from the fiction. You know, look at the issues and figure out what it is that really is something that we should be skeptical about when the government says something versus, well, that part is true. Mm-hmm. It's not all conspiracy theories. I mean, it's so easy to say that it's all good or all bad. The whole point of good journalism is to figure out what's what.
We were running out of time. I wanted to ask you the name, the Young Turks. That name maybe has a different ring now in the era of Turkish President Erdogan. Mm-hmm. Do you ever sometimes get a bad rap because of what Erdogan is doing in the name the Young Turks, or has that connection ever been made with you guys?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that sometimes the connection has been made between the name the Young Turks and the historical reference to a political party in Turkey that committed all sorts of atrocities. That was not the intent at all. The Young Turks, according to the dictionary, means rebels, young rebels trying to overthrow the establishment, and that's really how we perceive ourselves. We see ourselves as a media revolution. And hopefully we can spur a political revolution so we have better politics along the way.
You tweeted that Trump has 30 more days in office?
Yes.
Are you standing by that?
No, so that's a game that we play where we proffer some statement and then we say, is that totally true or totally bullshit? Can I say that here?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was my proffer statement, and the point is to debate it. I don't think he'll last for very long.
Yeah.
Whether it's 30 days or 90 days, who knows? But here's what Trump did not sign up for: actual hard work and sustained criticism. He can't handle that, so I don't think he'll stick around.
All right. Stephen with the Young Turks. Steve, we appreciate you taking the time to come in and be on the day, and we will be watching you guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.